All right, this is the question and answer session for Todd Flory, who is the Bethel College 2020 Young Alumnus of the Year. Look how young. And his follow-up talk to his empathy and education convocation, which he gave on Monday. And so have several questions here, and I got my social studies methods for elementary students to really focus on this. And so most of them were really interested in how did you first start get going with the Zoom around the world? Was that your idea, and or how did that come about?
Yeah,
Zoom, Skype around the world.
Yeah, same difference almost. So I started using Skype in the classroom my first couple years, maybe my third year teaching. And so we were doing a unit on space and science. And one of our technology directors in our district in Andover helped connect me with a NASA astronaut. And so that was sort of my first Skype call. And it was really sort of an eye-opening experience, kind of a light bulb moment where I thought, I can connect my students to pretty much anyone, anywhere in the world for any topic. We can make the learning kind of more real world and relevant and authentic. So that was sort of our first one. And then through my professional learning network and some of these calls that I was doing, I just started getting more connections with other teachers and educators from all across the world. And so we just decided, well, let's just dedicate, because I'd love to connect with all of them, but time is a limiting factor. And so we just decided, let's do a day that's dedicated just to Skyping, just to learn about different cultures. And we still, on the other days, we still connect as well. But we just have one day that we dedicate to connecting with classes and individuals all across the world. So that was an idea that I came up with. There was another teacher who did something similar with her students in, I want to say, North Carolina. So I think it was North Carolina. But as far as I know, that we were the first class to do this west of the Mississippi River, in the United States at least. And there were some other international teachers who were doing something similar. So it's just kind of an idea, and it's something where, the students as they enter fourth grade really look forward to, and they hear about it, and they're always asking about it. And so it's something kind of a rite of passage almost for fourth graders.
So that touches on a couple other questions that people asked. They were asking, does the whole school do it, or it's just your fourth grade class?
It's the fourth grade class of my school. So
okay.
There are 3 sections of fourth grade classes at Wheeland in my school. And so whenever I set up a Skype call or a virtual field trip, then I usually invite the other 2 fourth grade classes. So this is something that that all the fourth grade classes at my school do. Okay.
And then from what you said, it sounds like they're wondering how you made all these contacts around the world. And it sounds like it was like a snowball kind of effect. So like you talk to somebody and they know somebody else and they know somebody else. Is that how it?
Yes. Yeah, it's sort of cumulative. So maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, I started being involved in the Skype in the classroom master teacher program. And so I was one of the first, I think 20 or 22 original Skype master teachers in the world. And most of them were from the US at that point. And so we gathered at the ISTE Technology Conference, Education Technology Conference in Philadelphia about 5 or 6 years ago. And then that program has grown since, and there are over 100 Skype master teachers now. So I was one of the first ones, and kind of use that to help make connections. And those connections sort of led to other connections and so forth, and kind of branched out. So it's sort of a cumulative effect over the last several years.
Yeah, so that was another question. Have you ever had a chance to meet face to face? And so it sounds like you have.
For some, yeah. So most of the connections that I've done, I haven't. There's a teacher in Australia that I've actually presented with
at the ISTE conference. It's the International Society of Technology and Education. So it's one of the largest ed tech conferences in the world. And it rotates between various cities in the US. So this past year, or this last summer, it was postponed because of COVID, but it was supposed to be in Anaheim. The year before that, I think it was in Philadelphia. So this teacher that I've connected with a few times in Australia, every year she comes to this conference, and so we've had a chance to actually present at this conference together. So a few international teachers I've connected with, I've met in person, and that's really fun to actually meet them in person instead of just on the screen.
So you've been doing this for a number of years. You probably have a lot of contacts, and I understood that the students are at the school from morning till midnight on that day.
On that day, yeah.
And then, so how many countries are you connecting with, and do you edit some out? Are there ones that we don't have time? Or do you
No, there's not really any that I edit out. There's some that kind of fall through. Either something comes up, or one of us gets the time zone wrong or something, and it falls through. But we schedule. So I have a spreadsheet, and so this takes some legwork, maybe a month or two in advance, just kind of throwing out some feelers. And I contact probably at least twice as many educators than we actually connect with on that day. Just because some say, I'd love to, but we're busy that day, or I can't do it that day, or that time doesn't work. So we ended up last spring, connecting with, I think, 19 different places. And then a couple were in the United States, were states in the US, but the majority were other countries. And we sort of work our way through. So they get here 8 a.m., that's our first call. So we sort of do Africa and Europe in the morning. So it's their end of the day for them. And we try to get as many classrooms as possible. Sometimes we can't, we just talk to the teacher. But it's fun to have kids, interacting with other kids. So we start off by doing kind of Europe and Africa. And then we come back and do North and South America. And then in the late afternoon and evening, then we start jumping ahead to Asia and Australia. And so we kind of have,
geography of timelines.
Right. Yep. Match with the timeline and the time zone. So
cool. That's great. So you mentioned like getting the time zones wrong. Someone asked, what kind of other frustrations have you had with using technology in Skype? Is there anything that stands out?
Well, I've had Skype wanted to update right before I make the call, so I open it up and it says, "Oh, you have to update." So occasionally you have that.
Yeah.
Or maybe the internet is slow or whatever. So you occasionally have some of those. And just like anything else in education, you have to be flexible and adaptable. So we just kind of try it again and see if it works or not. We were doing a call, this is maybe 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. We had a call with a class in Mexico. And I was calling them, and they weren't answering. So the teacher and I talked afterward, and he's like, I apologize that we didn't pick up. We're actually under lockdown because there was a bank near the school that had been robbed. So the school was on lockdown. So all of his kids apparently were huddled in the classroom, and they hear the Skype, music playing, and I'm trying to call, and they're not able to pick up. So.
Oh wow! Yeah, that's something.
They're all safe, by the way. I should add.
Oh, good. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
What's been the most surprising thing for you individually in doing this number of years, and what like, wow, I didn't expect that. Have been any kind of surprises for you?
I guess I'm just continually surprised by how open and receptive the students are to learning about other cultures. So they love connecting, they love interacting with peers from different countries. And it just, I see the growth and the maturity throughout the year. I mean, I would naturally see that anyway from the fall to the spring, but I think that's enhanced with some of the work that we do. Just building in that empathy piece of, working on speaking and listening skills when they're interacting with people, virtually. Kind of their perspective and their horizons broadened a little bit with, learn about different issues and different culture and things like that. So just kind of seeing the growth in the students. And a lot of people say, well, that's great, but it's all just kind of fun and games. What you do the real learning. So I'm lucky to be in a very open-minded and progressive district. But I know a lot of people aren't that fortunate. So my kind of response to that is, this is real learning. So we are incorporating the academic standards into it. We're doing a lot of speaking and listening and deductive reasoning. We're doing writing reflections afterward. We're talking about main idea and smaller details, supporting details. We're doing things like geography if we're doing a mystery Skype and trying to guess their location. So there's all sorts of academic content that you bring in. And then also just helping them to learn how to interact and communicate and develop empathy. And those things are embedded in all the life skills and content and enhance their ability to do that content. So it's adding the foundation piece as well as the content.
Yeah, those are all, I mean, all those social studies skills, English language arts skills, all incorporated in there. That's awesome. One person asked, at least one person asked, how do you approach non-English speaking students? What happens there?
Yeah, most of the schools that we connect with are either English speaking schools or like international schools. Or the teacher knows enough English that they're able to translate.
Okay.
So I'll give a couple of examples. There's a class in Japan that we usually connect with, and his students are learning English, but they're very basic, like year 1, year 2 English speakers. So they're not able to converse with us. But the teacher is from Texas, and so he's been teaching over in Japan for the last decade or so. So he's able to translate. And earlier this week, actually, we connected with a class in Belgium. We're doing a hydroponics unit. So their students are also doing a hydroponics unit and learn about climate change and some of the effects. So his students sort of knew English. We're in the process of learning English. It was an international school, so some were kind of at different levels. But the teacher was able to translate and speak fluent English.
Okay. Okay, so here's two questions. You can answer one or both.
Yeah.
The one asks, are you able to manage your personal life with your work easily? And or what message would you have for Bethel College teacher education students right now?
Okay. So the first question, yes, sort of. I mean, I think anybody in education, you're going to be busy. So that's just, it's not really a 9-to-5 job. And, you always have grading and parent emails and planning. And so I'm always doing some work like in the evenings or weekends or something. But I think that's true for a lot of people in education. But I also think it's really important to kind of set boundaries and carve out some dedicated time just for like your own personal life and say, okay, after this hour, I'm leaving school and I'm leaving my stuff at school, and whatever I get done, I get done. If I don't get done, I'll get to it later. So kind of being intentional about having some separation and some personal time, I think, is important.
Okay.
And then the second question was what advice?
Yeah, what message do you have for Bethel College teacher education folks?
Yeah, I would say advice. So it's a demanding profession, but it's also one of the most important and rewarding professions. So you're going into a profession where too many people try to make decisions for education that don't have an education background. I'm thinking of elected leaders and things like that. And of course, there's always, budget issues and funding things. But it's also a profession that is really meaningful, where you connect with kids and actually make a real difference in their lives. And I would say that no 2 days are the same. So even though, this is my 10th year teaching, so even though I've done some of the same concepts and same like skills and stuff, and you're using the same curriculum, you're always changing things up. You always have new kids and new dynamics that comes with those students. You're always thinking of different projects, and that's one of the reasons why I love thinking of some of these global projects, is because it keeps it fresh. And I like to do, think outside the box and do meaningful projects that the students will get something out of and remember, and kind of shape their perspective and kind of their future going forward.
Yeah,
So
that's great. You're definitely making memories for those
yeah.
great Wheatland. That's great. So, Todd, congratulations again on your recognition as the Bethel College Young Alumnus of the Year. And thank you for taking the time to present in Convocation, and thank you for having this question and answer session.
Yeah.
And I'll let you get back to planning, grading,
All right.
whatever it is you do this time of day.
All right.
So,
Well, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on.
okay, we'll see you.
All right. Bye.